Yes, that's right, it's me, Mr. Konami. I'm calling to let you know that I've had a change of heart. Yes, like the Yu-Gi-Oh card. Yes, it's very funny. Anyway, I think it's high time the TCG had their day in the sun. I want the best card in the next set to be Ashened. Oh. Probably wasn't a great idea to use the same internet that was running the Duel Link servers. Well, I'm sure he got it.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts! I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Once again, my unimaginative patrons demand exactly what you'd expect, one of the worst archetypes in the set currently sequestered behind a 1-minute overview. Well, here we are. And here's Ashened. So let's get blastin'. Presenting Ashened.
The loathsome dung eater.
So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. I've been shilling Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck for, well, years at this point, and I'm happy to announce I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. By now, they've become the most complete repository of tournament tops on the internet, the best place to jam prog with friends, and of course, still host strategy articles. Recently, they've added a new piece of infrastructure to the fold, a 3-card arena draft, draftable with card pools featuring classic formats, Master Duel, or within any parameters you like. Give it, or any of their other features, a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. So with that, let's assess Ashened. Ashened is the newest TCG exclusive archetype, first revealed in Phantom Nightmare, and for the first time in forever, things looked promising. The first wave was a powerful, albeit small, resource loop, which could easily find every piece of its engine. The stage was set, all they needed was a payoff, and when has Konami ever left a TCG exclusive deck wanting after a promising but insufficient first wave of support? Well, what we all feared came to pass. In lead, we got the new stuff, and it's nowhere near good enough. There are big bosses for the boys, but they're nowhere near the strength or scale of the monster they need to be to compete in the modern meta. But that doesn't mean we need to sit and wait for the volcano to destroy us. By supplementing the Ashened with a synergistic Kashtira engine and playing into its strengths of modifying the type of your opponent's monsters on your turn, we can slap together a deck with going first and second capacity, either by leaving Vidos on field as a potential nuclear weapon going first, or chewing through board states with super polymerization and Kashtiras when going second. It's not as explosive as Vesuvius, but you just might be able to take your opponent down with you. So with that, let's get into the card by card. We're going to begin with the flagship monster of this archetype, Vidos the Eruption Dragon of Extinction. During the main phase, if this card is in your hand, quick effect, you can target a card in the field zone, summon this card to your opponent's field, and if you do destroy the card in the field zone, then you can add to your hand or set an Ashened continuous trap from your deck. If this is sent from your opponent's field to the graveyard, you can destroy all monsters on the field. Now, there are a number of decks in this format, think Sangen Summoning for Tenpai or Fire King Island for Snake Eye Fire King, that absolutely need their field spell to remain on the field to continue to be able to play the game. But if you're playing against a deck that doesn't have one, don't worry, we can always just pop our own. The field spell that makes the deck tick is Obsidian the Ashened City. Face up special summoned monsters your opponent controls become pyro during your turn only, so unfortunately it doesn't have that weird zombie world effect where you automatically win all your Fluandereeze games, but you still prevent them from going off on your turn, so that's something. You can only use each of the following effects of Obsidian once per turn. During your end phase, you can target an Obsidian in your graveyard, put it on the bottom of your deck, then draw a card, and if this card in the field's zone is destroyed or banished, you can special summon an Ashened from your deck. It's going to be destroyed a lot over the course of a turn. Thankfully, that shuffle effect ensures that you'll be able to have follow-up because you sometimes do go through 3 of these. Let's get into the individual Ashened monsters. We are playing 1 apiece of some of them, but 3 of Priestess of the Ashened City. So all these cards have this shared effect. If Obsidian the Ashened City is in your field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only special summon the named monster once per turn this way. Then each one has a different effect. Priestesses is on normal or special summoned. You can add a Ashened card from your deck to your hand, except herself. King is that you can special summon an Ashened monster from your hand except for King, or if your opponent controls a monster with 2800 or more attack, hint, hint, then you can summon it from your deck instead. We've of course got Hero of the Ashened City, which during the main phase allows you to target a pyro monster on the field, destroy it, and if you destroyed Vidos, then you can place an Obsidian from your deck face up in your field spell zone. And then we've got some new ones, Spearhead of the Ashened City, which if your opponent controls a monster with 2800 or more attack, can be attributed to target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand, and Shaman summon of the Ashened City, which can target 3 of your pyro monsters that are banished during your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then if you shuffled an Ashened monster, add an Obsidian from your deck to your hand. After that, we have 3 Kashtira Fenrir and a Kashtira Riseheart. Now, where this deck shines is its spell cards, which you'll probably realize when I read to you the text on Extinguishing the Ashened. Send 1 Dark Pyro monster from your deck to the graveyard, then you can add a level 5 or higher Pyro monster from your graveyard to your hand. For the rest of the turn after the card resolves, you can't special summon it from the extra deck except for Pyros. You can banish this card from your graveyard to fusion summon a Pyro Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Those are hard onces. Now you probably understand what I'm talking about when I say this is so very close. I mean, they have a Rhoda/Foolish/Polymerization all on 1 card. Next up, we've got 3 copies of Awakening of Vidos. Put an Obsidian from your deck face up in either field zone. Then if your opponent controls a card in the field zone, you can add a level 5 or higher Dark Pyro from your deck to your hand. And for the rest of the turn after this resolves, you can't special summon from the deck or extra deck except for Pyros. After that, we've of course got the Obsidians, but we're also playing a Wraithsoth, which is also a fun target for set rotation, and Terraforming, of course, can get us where we need to get. Now, all these monsters are Pyros. They're not fire, but they can be searched off of Bonfire, so we are going to play 3 of those as well. We have 2 trap cards. First is Ashened to Endlessness, which during the main phase allows you to fusion summon a Pyro Fusion monster using monsters from either field as material, including a Vidos, the Eruption Dragon of Extinction, and if you do, it gains 500 for each material used, and it can be banished with a Dark Pyro monster from your graveyard to turn all monsters your opponent currently controls Pyro until the end of the turn. After that, we have Awakening of Ashened for Eternity. When this card is activated, you can add a Vidos or an Ashened from your graveyard to your hand. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it, then make all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to the targeted monster's original attack. Sounds good, right? It's basically Snatch Steal. Oh, well, I've omitted a really important piece of text here. The targeted monster has to be one that you own. So it really just gets back Vidos. Regardless, the attack change lasts till the end of the turn, and it is a hard once. After that, we've got 3 copies of Ash Blossom Joy Spring, 3 Super Polymerization. This one feels a little weird. Obsidian only switches your opponent's monsters to Pyros on your turn, which means you can't really use it to interrupt them, but actually sometimes you can, because if you get the Ashen for Endlessness to get into the graveyard, then you can swap all their monsters to Pyro and just eat it that way. And also there's a deck in the format that just plays a whole bunch of Pyro monsters that you can eat the board. And also Super Poly is just generally a good card, so you know, your mileage may vary. And of course, you've got 3 Infinite Impermanence. After that, let's go to the extra. We've got 2 copies of Vidos, the Dragon of Endless Darkness, and ooh, that card image looks like it comports to the name. This is a Vidos, the Eruption Dragon of Extinction, and 2+ level 9 or lower Pyros. Can't be destroyed by card effects, can't be targeted by monster effects. If fusion summon, destroy all spell traps your opponent controls. When your opponent activates a card effect on the field, you can send a face-up Ashen you control to the graveyard to destroy that card. This is a very powerful card, but just not powerful enough. It is a back row board wipe. That's neat. It is really hard to get off the field. That's good. And it sort of interacts with your opponent, but in the most frustrating way possible. But at the end of the day, it can be destroyed by battle and doesn't do anything outside of its weird blockable effect. So not exactly the boss they were looking for. Embers of the Ashened can be made with any 2 Pyros, and if fusion summoned, you can target a field spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Then at the start of the damage step, if it battles an opponent's Pyro monster, you can destroy that monster, and if it's your turn, this card can make a second attack in a row. We've got some generic Super Poly targets, Garura and Mud Dragon. We've got Typhon, and actually Infernal Flame Banshee is really easy to make in this deck. Importantly, it can get you to whatever pieces of the Ashened City you're missing. And then we've got Amblo Whale, Access Code Talker, Princess, Dark, SP Little Knight, Pit Knight Early, and IP Masquerena. In the side, we've just got some generic non-engine options, Dimensional Barrier, Evenly Matched, Cosmic Cyclone, Droll and Lockbird, and Nibiru the Primal Being. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Different Dimension Demons, and you can see that we've opened a couple of pieces of non-engine and also a linear combo, so this should go pretty well. This is basically the general game plan of the deck. Our opponent combos for a little bit, they get to Gilgamesh, that's an easy imperm target, and at this point we're just kind of hoping that it ends their turn. They will scale 0 Laplace and this Abyss Ragnarok, which permits them to perform a Pendulum Summon of the Griffin and the Copernicus, and overlay for a Wave King Caesar into another Gilgamesh. That's going to trigger the Ragnarok and the Caesar, which is going to get them back the Griffin, take 1,000 here, and grab themselves a Dark Contract with the Swamp King as well. We will Ash this Griffin, which forces them to go for the Necro Slime play here, going for a Genghis before making Machinex. They'll use the effect of the Genghis to bring back this Caesar, and then overlay for a Kingtail, activate the effect of the Kingtail, and then at point of resolution, fire off this Dark Contract with the Swamp King in order to make themselves a copy of Genghis. This will trigger the effect of the Marksman Kingtail in order to send the field spell, and at this point they can just overlay for a copy of Wave High King Caesar and pass. This is a pretty respectable board, especially through 2 hand traps. We're going to begin with Obsidian, and guess what? Now they're Pyros. We're going to take their entire field from from them and make Embers of the Ashened. They do get to trigger the effect of their monster in the graveyard, but we get to trigger Bonfire, which is a little better. We'll go for Priestess here. We're going to activate the effect of the Priestess for, Extinguishing the Ashened. What a powerful card. We'll go for Vidos afterwards, targeting our field spell, and then what do you know? We can set that continuous trap and trigger the Obsidian in order to summon a king. From here, we can activate the effect of the king in order to summon a hero of the Ashened City and go to the battle phase, walking over the Vidos and sending it to the graveyard, allowing us to attack again, getting in for well over lethal. Not surprising that that's what the deck does on the draw, considering it likes to go second so much, but how does it perform on the play? For Game 2, we're up against Ostinato Tenpai. That's really fun. I wonder what the Melodious cards add to that. Probably the same as everything else. We're going to begin with a copy of Awakening, which is going to give our opponent an Obsidian. Then we will set this copy of Vados and Ashen to Endlessness. We'll trigger the effect of the Obsidian in graveyard for a Priestess. We'll activate the effect of the Priestess, and then we'll set another Obsidian afterwards. We're going to special summon this King and activate the effect of the King in order to summon a hero. Next, we will special summon this copy of Spearhead and go into Infernal Flame Banshee, which gets from deck to hand another copy of Vidos. We will set one card, trigger the effect of the Obsidian at end step, and pass back to our opponent. They draw another Ostinato, also offline now that we have given them a monster, one of the many upsides to this strategy. Sangen Summoning gets fired here, and then at point of resolution, they're going to normal summon a Chandra. We will go for the Endlessness here. We'll activate the effect, and then make ourselves a copy of Vidos, the Dragon of Endless Darkness, which makes quick work of the Sangen Summoning. They will impermit, which is frustrating, then go to the battle phase and fire off Kaiman. Afterwards, we're going to go for a Fadra. They will activate the effect of the Fadra, targeting the copy of Chandra, at which point we can just super polymerization these two away and our opponent will scoop. So it's time for Game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing what else but Snake Eye. We're going first, and this hand is all right. We're going to go for Fenrir here. That's going to grab from deck to hand a Rise Heart. We'll fire off the Bonfire into an Ash Blossom. Shoot. Okay, well, I guess we can normal summon this Shaman, special the Rise Heart, and then overlay for an Infernal Flame Banshee into a Ghost Mourner. This format, man. We'll pass back to our opponent. They're going to begin with a copy of the field spell. Divine Temple of the Snake Eye is going to set a Snake Eyes Diabellstar, which they will send for an OSS. They'll trigger the effect of the Ash, adding a Poplar to hand, then special the Poplar out of the hand, at which point we will just go ahead and fire the Fenrir, banishing this Ash face down. Next, they're going to go into an Anima, triggering the effect of the Poplar in order to scale back the Diabellstar, then activating Diabellstar in order to put that Ash Blossom in the back row. In main phase 2, they're going to go for SP Little Knight and eat our Infernal Flame Banshee. Ugh, any other better deck would be able to deal with this, but we just can't. Okay, let's begin with Fenrir. Let's go to the battle phase. We get to walk over the Little Knight, which is nice. We'll activate Fenrir's effect in order to grab the third Fenrir, then we'll normal summon a copy of Priestess. They're going to go Divine Temple of the Snake Eye here in order to summon out the Ash Blossom and Effect Veiler to prevent the Priestess from resolving. That's frustrating. Afterwards, we're going to go Fenrir to banish this copy of Ash Blossom face down, but the top of their deck is way better than ours. There's Snake Eye Diabellstar. They're going to go Kashtira Birth and then normal summon the Diabellstar, getting over this copy of Fenrir, then activating the effect of OSS in order to cycle back. They will go ahead and activate the Poplar that they add to hand, and then afterwards they're going to go for the effect of the Hita that they summon. Wow, our whole deck is fire, huh? That Rise Heart is going to trigger here. That's funny. Then they'll use Kashtira Birth to bring back the Fenrir. Wait, whoa. Who's the Kashtira deck here? They're going to overlay for a Dracosack, activate the effect of the Dracosack to get themselves 2 tokens, and then afterwards they can activate Snake Eye Diabellstar in order to reset that Poplar. They're going to go Dracosack in order to eat our Priestess, then they're going to go into Selene, trigger the effect of the Selene, and then activate the effect of the Selene for 3 in order to bring back the Diabellstar. That Diabellstar is now going to trigger. We're going to get a Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils into Dark, bring back this copy of Priestess, and then make a copy of Promethean Princess. Just going through the motions here. Princess into Hita, into Raging Phoenix, into Zelantis, bring everything back. This terrible Mecha Beast Dracosack, and pass turn. We draw. We do have Fenrir access, which is something, but as they go for the Princess, we just scoop them up. So it's time for Game 2, and we're just in such a bad position here. Like, obviously, we want to go second, but we really can't afford to against a deck as robust as our opponents. We are going to lead with this copy of Priestess of the Ashen City. They are going to Veiler, and we're going to chain the Awakening of Vidos to that. We'll go for the effect of the Vidos in hand here to pop the Obsidian, and we'll set a copy of Endlessness, triggering the effect of the Obsidian in order to grab a King. We're going to set our own Obsidian, and then we're going to special summon a Spearhead. We will get ourselves back the Vidos, and then we'll activate Bonfire in order to go ahead and grab another Priestess. We'll pass back to our opponent and then activate Obsidian. They will Ghost Ogre it. Oh god, that's disastrous. They're just going to go ahead and set Wraith Soth, which is great news for us because that gives us a reason to go for Vidos. We will set this copy of Ashen for Eternity. At point of resolution, they will normal Snake Eye Ash in order to grab Poplar. They're going to activate the effect of the Poplar, summoning it, and then afterwards they will trigger the effect of the Poplar in order to grab their other field spell. We will go Ashened to Endlessness here to send everything to the graveyard with this copy of Vidos. But unfortunately, Divine Temple into a copy of Snake Eyes Flamberge is good enough if Diabellstar is the last unknown. We'll scoop them up as she comes down. So we're back with the deck, and yeah, that kind of went down in flames. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, The new support fleshes out the deck to a point where it actually has a goal. It adds the new recycling support in Shaman and Embers, a new end boss and interruption with a new trap that super polys. It's nice. 2, Vidos is great, especially if you're shutting out your opponent's field spells, with Awakening going second, completely wiping their field spell off or by its quick effect to destroy. And then 3, the engine itself is pretty small. It can be cut down to slot in other engines with synergy like Volcanic or Melodious. And the cons. 1, the deck is ridiculously vulnerable to hand traps. If Vidos doesn't resolve, and it can be ashed, hands without Priestess plus Obsidian struggle to end on anything notable, often relying on Fenrir and non-engine to stay alive. 2, you need to be able to see multiple Vidoses, which isn't too hard if your engine pieces resolve, but without access to multiple Vidoses, you kind of have to use the Super Poly Trap suboptimally so they don't just link off Vidos at a really inopportune moment, using it as a free body. And 3, board breaking into an OTK or even a respectable board is often extremely hand dependent. Much of your engine is easily stopped or doesn't provide removal that's actually worth anything. Your non-engine helps, but engine-heavy hands struggle to play through established boards fairly often. Overall, just like Ashes, this deck should probably be kept on a vase on the mantelpiece, something to mourn. Until more legacy support brings it up to speed, give this one a miss. We're counting on you, OCG. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These 10-minute testings are functionally subsidized by, and occasionally suggested by, my Patreons. I'm going to go ahead and read out some of the higher tier Patreons now, without whom these videos would not be possible. Huge thanks to Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ally, Brett Henry, Canner, Seaweed, Darkmaster Zork, Derpin Dragon, Devin Senpai, DJ Elefante, Gravity, John Piet, Juan Cruz Avila Zati, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Dolce, soon, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Project Mercury, Rose Lapine, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Your Pot of Greed Does What, and Yuki. Couldn't have done it without you.